Continuing now with the JFK Assassination, Part 5. The shots and the smoke that hasn't yet cleared.
In Dallas, with Lee Oswald, the man accused of assassinating President Kennedy, dead, the big question now is, what kind of man shot Lee Oswald, and why? We have in the studios of our affiliate station KRLD-TV here in Dallas, Bill DeMar, who is a nightclub MC, a comedian by profession. Bill worked in the nightclub owned by Jack Ruby.
So as far as timing is...
Jack Rubenstein's political philosophies?
No, he never spoke about anything when we go for breakfast afterwards or anything. The only thing he talked about was business.
Did you ever hear him say anything about President Kennedy?
Never.
Do you know Lee Oswald? Have you ever seen him?
To my knowledge, if I recollect correctly, I saw him in the audience last week.
Lee Oswald in the audience at
Yes.
the club, at the
Yes.
Carousel
Yes.
Club, which is owned by Jack Rubenstein?
Yes.
Did Jack Rubenstein speak with Oswald, to your knowledge?
No, I didn't see him. I don't think Jack even knew he was in there.
You don't think Rubenstein knew that Oswald was in the club? It's such a strange coincidence that he would be in the club. Do you think it possible that Rubenstein knew him?
I don't think so. I don't know for sure.
Whatever popular opinion may be. As a nation and as individuals, it is worth reminding ourselves that many facts are known. Many questions have been answered beyond a reasonable doubt. The Warren Commission did make mistakes, but it also got a lot right. Despite all of the attacks, the Commission's main conclusions have so far passed the test of time. There is no proof and very little of any credible evidence of any conspiracy. And the facts, including much hard physical evidence, do indicate one man was the assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald. Any contrary conclusions are speculation, based less on fact than imagination, often by people who divine things the ear cannot hear and the eyes cannot see. For CBS Reports, I'm Dan Rather.
25 years after John F. Kennedy was killed in Dallas, the mystery of his assassination and the fascination with that mystery both remain strong. In a CBS News New York Times poll taken a month ago, 2/3 of Americans did not believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, and only 13% thought he did. And more than 60% thought there was an official cover-up to keep the public from learning the truth.
Sinister hue. On January 22nd, Texas Attorney General Wagner Carr phoned J. Lee Rankin and told him of an explosive rumor circulating in Dallas. Lee Harvey Oswald had been an informant for the FBI. The commission was stunned.
They held an emergency meeting beginning after 5 on January 22nd. And at that point, they expressed just how terrified they were of the FBI. And they expressed their fear that if this was believed, nobody would ever believe that there hadn't been a conspiracy.
Rankin, if that was true, then you would have people think there was a conspiracy to accomplish this assassination that nothing the commission did could dissipate. Boggs, the implications of this are fantastic. I don't even like to see this being taken down. Dulles, yes, I think this record ought to be destroyed. Warren, except we said we would have records of our meetings.
In a position that was closer than anybody else, just by happenstance, that allowed me to look for some period of time at the president's head wound, probably 18 to 20 inches away from it. Dr. Perry, who was enlarging the wound in the neck to do the tracheostomy, told me that the small wound in the neck looked like an entrance wound. The head wound that I saw was a very large wound in the right posterior part of the head.
Well, where did you think the shots had come from? What did you think?
But I think, even then, that I would have thought that this was certainly an exit wound in the back of the head, and that therefore the shot must have come from the front.
President,
we have a report now which has to do with a news conference at Parkland Hospital, a report on the condition of Governor John Connally of Texas, so we switched to that.
The scene is the Parkland Hospital at Dallas, Texas. This is Dan Rather of CBS News. The man you are seeing here is the doctor who has been attending Texas Governor John Connally.
We know that the wound of entrance is alongside the shoulder blade here, that the wound of exit was here. We speculate that his arm perhaps was about in this position, and that it fractured his arm here, and then went on with him sitting into his left thigh. This is a matter of trying to reconstruct the trajectory of the bullet. He was shot from above, and he was in a sitting position. So we feel that this is all one bullet.
What you have been watching is the official briefing.
Prior to the tracheostomy performed by Dr. Perry, I observed in the lower third of the neck a small, rounded, well-demarcated entrance wound. This was obliterated by the tracheostomy in that Dr. Perry made the tracheostomy incision through the entrance wound. Different parts of the tissues were spread. He then made the incision into the trachea and through the hole that had previously been made by the entrance of the bullet. The tracheostomy was put in place.
Radio reports from Dallas that afternoon mentioned the small round wound of entry in the front of the president's neck. They were heard by the late Dr. Robert Livingston, who was then scientific director of the National Institute for Mental Health.
The reports had been that the president had been shot from the rear, from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building. And the evidence at hand from the Parkland Hospital doctors of a small, neat wound in the neck was contradictory to that, or at least complementary to that, in the sense that it required that there be a shot from in front, so that if he were shot from the rear, he was also being shot at the same time from in front. So I wanted to tell whoever was going to do the autopsy about that, and so I telephoned Bethesda Naval Hospital. The officer of the day I knew, and he put me quickly through to Dr. James Humes, who was going to head the autopsy team. He was very cordial, and we had a good conversation, brief. He had not heard about the neck wound. I told him that it was important because it was a wound of entrance, and I told him that it should be explored completely for its track and to find any bullet or fragments of bullets that would remain, and particularly emphasized that it had to be a frontal wound since there was no tearing of the tissues. He left the telephone momentarily and came back and said, "Dr. Livingston, I'm sorry, I can't continue this conversation. The FBI won't let me."
Humes later claimed he only learnt about that bullet wound after the autopsy from one of the Dallas doctors. He never examined it.
But after the body arrived at Bethesda Naval Hospital for the autopsy, many problems followed. The autopsy should have determined how the gunshots killed Kennedy and where the bullets entered and exited his body. Dr. James Humes, a Naval Hospital pathologist, not a forensic expert, was in charge. This was his first autopsy involving gunshot wounds. It resulted in many irregularities. He did not examine Kennedy's clothing to locate and confirm entry and exit wounds. He did not dissect the neck wound to trace the bullet's path through the body. He did not locate the wounds with reference to fixed body landmarks. and he apparently made errors of several inches in drawings locating the wounds. He did not properly examine the brain, which disappeared some years later and has not been found since. He didn't realize there was a bullet wound in the front of the neck until he contacted the Dallas doctors the following day. By then, the body had been removed and re-examination was impossible. And finally, he burned his original autopsy notes before they were made public. Compounding these problems, the autopsy descriptions of the wounds were substantially different from the way the doctors in Dallas described them, as David Lipton explains.
We have two groups of doctors seeing the body, which is evidence. Their observations are 6 hours apart. What did they see in each area of the body? In the area of the neck, President Kennedy suffered a wound in Dallas, which was described as an entry wound.
If Kennedy was shot from behind, the wound on the front of his neck had to be an exit wound. But that's not what Nurse Audrey Bell, on duty in the emergency room that day, recalls.
It looked small and round, like an entry wound, instead of larger, like an exit wound could often look.
The wound was about 5 millimeters or a 1/4 inch across, the size of a pencil, right at the throat, at the Adam's apple. That wound, Dr. Perry made a tracheotomy through.
Lipton claims he was told by the Dallas doctor who made the tracheotomy that his incision through the neck wound was smooth and less than half the width described by Dr. Humes, the autopsy doctor.
More significantly, he describes it as having widely gaping, irregular edges. So the inconsistency here is that we have a widening of a wound, which in Dallas was thought to be a bullet's entry. At Bethesda, in the autopsy report, their conclusion is that this is the exit for a bullet, which entered from behind.
John Newman, a former analyst for the National Security Agency, has written extensively on Oswald's suspected intelligence connections.
There were 3 times that Oswald was interviewed by the FBI after his return from Russia in 1962. The one that's most interesting happened in the summer of 1963 when Oswald was arrested after engaging in fisticuffs right on the street corner with anti-Castro Cubans.
On August 9th, 1963, Oswald was arrested for disturbing the peace while distributing pro-Castro leaflets in New Orleans.
At this point, when he was arrested in his jail cell, he requested to be interviewed by an FBI agent in order to give them information on the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. Now, if that isn't informing, I don't know what is.
During my